Where you guys writing your what you guys writing your projects in?
PHP.
What was that?
Ruby on Rails.
Nice.
Objective-C.
Objective-C.
Java.
Expanding on Java.
Java.
PHP.
PHP.
Script
Good.
and WordPress.
WordPress.
Express.
Nice. Look at that. You can vision there. Nice, guys. That's awesome. Really great. So you guys are probably finally getting to the point where you want to put this thing out live. And I know some of you guys have even bought domain names already, just because you guys want to be done. You guys want to be ready to go. Tonight we're going to tell you guys how to make your stuff go live. There's probably just a few little missing pieces that after tonight things will make a lot more sense about how to push your code out into a live server environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about Amazon EC2. Keegan's going to talk to you about something about how to configure DNS and maybe even a little bit about Heroku. Just talk to him about Heroku. Just show him the website. Just show him the website. Keegan's going to show you something much better than what I'm showing you right now. But this will be a start. And Cloudflare. Oh, and an SSL. So, all right, so guys, let's go ahead and get started. All right. So what we're going to be working with is we're going to be working with this thing called Amazon Web Services. Have you guys heard of it? Yeah. I mean, like half the internet runs off of it. That's an exaggeration, but tons and tons of people use it. And essentially, they've got all the stuff in here. And let me make this. Reddit uses it? Wow, that's incredible. So they've got all this stuff in here. You can create an entire infrastructure out of this stuff. But really, the only thing we need to talk about is this EC2. What EC2 is, it allows you to borrow a computer from Amazon. And so it's not going to be a physical computer like this one, but it's just going to be a virtual machine. And you can set it up so that this computer has as much RAM or as much processing power as you like. So they go from very small instances, like half a gigabyte of RAM, all the way up to like 30 gigabytes of RAM and like quad-core processors and stuff like that. But the big thing is, they actually give you an account for free for a year using a small EC2 instance. You don't have to pay anything. You just micro. Oh yeah, a micro instance that's more than enough to get your guys' app going. And it's going to give you a computer just like your appliance. So instead of having to use your appliance, you can just get this Amazon EC2 instance going, and they'll give it to you for free. And it'll be up in the cloud. It'll have an IP address. It'll be really nice. So, you guys saw the first thing I did. I just clicked on EC2. This Amazon AWS account is connected to your main Amazon account. And they might have you hook. I mean, your credit card's already associated with Amazon, so they can charge you that way. But it's really easy to stay within the limits. I've been doing stuff on this all the time. I've had to pay maybe like $1 or two. So if we want to launch one of these instances, you can just come down here and click Launch Instance, and it's got a quick start guide for us. So it's going to let us pick out whatever type of server we want, including Windows Server if we want, but we don't want that.
Nobody wants that.
Let me repeat, nobody wants that. Sorry, Keegan. All right, so we're just going to pick a Ubuntu instance and Medium. Actually, I don't want Medium. No, I'm just going to go with their base Amazon AMI. It's still a Linux machine. And let's see on this next page. Okay, great. We've got a micro instance, so that's the free one. Doesn't cost us any memory. We've got one CPU. We've got half a gig of memory, and that's all you need for really a server. So let's go ahead and review and launch. Okay, looks good. I'm going to click launch. Okay, now right here it's going to say select an existing key pair or select a new key pair. And so, are you guys familiar with public and private keys a little bit?
No.
No? Oh, I don't want to have to explain it, but.
Don't they go over that in 7?
Yeah, I think they go over that in 7. Watch 7, because they'll be able to explain it a lot better than myself. But essentially, it's going to give us this little file, and this file is going to allow us to authenticate with Amazon. That's basically all you have to know. And you want to keep this file, you don't want to display it on the internet. You don't want to have it public on your computer. I'll show you how to keep it really private here in just a second. So, we're going to create a new key pair, and just give it a name, launch code. We're going to click download key pair. Okay, great. Now we've got this file. It's called a PEM file. And it's just going to live just like that. We don't have to do anything to it, except what we want to do is, I told you guys this is how we authenticate with Amazon. Anybody who has this file can get into your Amazon account. So if you don't want somebody going in to like spin up a bunch of servers to send like spam mail, don't put this out on the internet. Don't put it into your GitHub. Just keep it on your computer. And a matter of fact, let's go ahead and let's use some of our Linux know-how to really make sure that this thing is not going anyplace. So I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to paste it into this directory with my other one that I was working on before. I can type in ls. We're going to go to the EC2 directory. ls again. Alright, I've got 2 files in there. Launch code key pair is the one that I just put. You guys probably want that bigger, don't you? Is that better? So I've got 2 files in there. One's the one that I just put in. Remember ls-la? Permissions? Let's list the permissions for everything in our directory. So notice how the key pair that I created before is read access for the user only. That means no one in the group can read it. That means that administrator can't use it. Only you can look at it. And that's the way we want it to be. So we're going to do the same thing to this other launch code key pair, just to make sure no one else can look at it other than the user themselves. So, anybody remember the command to... Nice, you guys got it down. And what would I do if I wanted to make this read-only for just the user himself? 400. Oh my god, guys. This is awesome. Really good. Really, really good. Nice. Okay, great, you're correct. That gave us read-only for the user only. So now, this file is pretty much as locked down as we can make it on our computer. As long as we don't put it out on the internet, we should be good, right? No one can get in and try EC2. And finally, we're going to say launch instance. So it says creating security group right down here. You can actually create groups of people that can view this website. Right now, whenever you create it initially, it's just going to be open for everybody to see. So they won't be able to get into your machine, but if you have a website up on it, they'll be able to see your website. Great. Nice. All right. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and click view instance. And I've got the one created from before, but the second one down here, this is the one that this is the one that we just created now. And so this public IP, this is what's called a static IP address. That means this computer is always going to have this IP address. I can't say always, but I'm not sure if it restarts, if it gets the same one, but that's the IP address of that computer. That's how you get to it. Great, that looks pretty nice. So how many of you guys have bought domains so far? Raise your hands. Okay, good. Did they give you, who'd you buy them from? GoDaddy, right? Who else?
DreamHost.
DreamHost? Okay, nice. Say what? NetFirms? Okay, good. So, how do you guys get your files on those hosts? that you bought your domain from.
FTP.
Yeah, you have to FTP, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And they might give you a little graphical user interface, but usually you have to FTP your stuff up. Using something like EC2, we're actually going to SSH into the machine. And so instead of having to just transfer our files, we're actually going to be able to log into the machine, into the command line of that machine, and we can install whatever packages we need to install, we can install whatever servers, we can remove any code, we can create any files that we need. We have complete control over whatever happens on this machine. So let me show you guys how to do that. And let me just type in history, grep, SSH. Okay, so you guys saw me and Keegan just kind of like freaking out before the talk, right? So it turns out that the library actually has SSH turned off on their internet, so you can't SSH into things. But Keegan was smart enough to turn on his Wi-Fi on his phone. So, big props to Keegan on figuring this one out. So, you're going to use, there's lots of tools out there. You could use something like PuTTY. You could, on Windows, you could install like PowerShell or Cygwin. But the thing is, if you've got this SSH library, now we can just type in SSH-I, and I'm going to type in the name of the PEM file that I just downloaded, which is launchcode keypair PEM. And then to get into an Amazon EC2 account, you're just going to type EC-user, and that's the same for everybody, no matter what machine you have. You're just going to type EC-user, and now I'm going to type this IP address. Remember, this is the public IP address. Everybody in the world can get to this machine by this IP address. Yes, I would like to connect. Great. Now I'm in. Guys, this is your own very own Linux machine up in the cloud. You can do anything that you want with it. It's just like having it online. In fact, you can even install stuff like NoMachine. Install something like NoMachine on here, and you can actually remote desktop into this machine if you wanted to. But we're just gonna work with it on the command line. And so I can, if I type in ls-/ you can see we've got all the normal stuff that you see in on the Linux machine. If we type ls/home, it's slow going over Keegan's phone. I hope it melts. Install Git.
Installed quick.
Wow, that actually did install pretty quick. Git. Oh, nice. Now we've got Git. In fact, we can even let's pull down a repository real quick. How about this one? Git clone. Clear. Git clone. Wow, that is really fast. The other thing I forgot to mention is that these EC2 instances, they're hooked up pretty much to the backbone of the internet. So anything you download is going to be incredibly fast. Just incredibly fast. Like, that thing didn't even blink when I just told it to. Did it even clone the project? No, it did not. It's still pretty fast, though, guys.
What directory are you in?
Let me try one more thing. I'm not sure why the didn't come down. It's live coding for you guys. So, so this is definitely one option that you have. You've got a fully configurable machine that you can work with up in the cloud, and you just have to attach a DNS to it, which Keegan's going to tell you about next. So instead of referring to this thing by that long IP address that we gave at the beginning, instead of saying, well, yeah, I won't be able to find it, but yeah, instead of referring to the IP address, you'll be able to refer to it as an actual domain name. And then Keegan's going to show you something even better than this, stuff that'll deploy your apps automatically, host your apps automatically, and you don't even have to do any configuration. So, Keegan.
I've got a question real quick.
Yeah, you guys have any questions?
Is it possible to transfer a file directly through SSH? I think I remember looking this up at one point, but I forget.
Oh, yeah.
You have to use FTP.
SFTP.
Oh, SFTP.
There's a whole bunch of stuff you can use. You could use SFTP, you can use rsync, which is really cool, and you can also use SCP. And SCP is one of my favorites.
Okay.
Or you could use FileZilla. Get something like FileZilla, and it'll give you a nice GUI. Let me show you guys that real quick, though. So if I want to touch, sorry guys. So if I want to get this file up to my EC2 instance, let's see, I would just say scp readme.md to EC2 user at, what was that IP address?
54.187.
Oh, that's good. I remember that. That's incredible. 54 at 187.
65. 176.
home/EC2 user. And so yeah, if you want to push code to your EC2 instance, you can do this, and then you can even say if you wanted to push up your entire directory, you could give it -r, which means recursive, and I could send up my entire pretty much my entire code directory. You can push up entire directories by saying -r. And I would do this right now, but based on my luck, I don't think it will work. So. Any other questions? Yeah, good question.
Alright, so when we're working, some of us are working with groups, what do you suggest for like managing this among several people? Like, because you said it's linked to your Amazon account.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
Three people
good
in our group,
question.
What do you suggest?
Yeah, so if you are using Amazon, and I mean, Heroku has the same thing as well that you can get, but you can go into services, you can go to IAM right here. You see that? On that computer. But yeah, using IAM, you can create unique logins for each person, like a unique PEM file, and then you can give them specific permissions, saying that hey, you can upload stuff, but you can't spin up like 100 new servers. Yeah, and another option, which I hope Keegan mentions a little bit, is using something like Travis CI.
I'm not.
All right, guys, Travis CI is really way cool. It's hooked up to GitHub, and so essentially you create a Travis CI account, and you log in with your GitHub credentials, and then you get this page that lists all of your repositories, and then you can just turn on Travis CI for certain repositories, and then every time you push to that repository, it will do stuff for you. Like, it'll run the build. Like, if you've got a Java file or an Android project, every single time you push to your repository, it'll compile all of your Android, make sure it's working correctly, run any tests if you have them, and give you a nice big green bar that says, hey, it worked. Or it'll send you an email that said, hey, this failed. So if you're working in a group, sometimes it can be kind of confusing to see, hey, is my code actually working? Travis CI is a great way to say, hey, you got to make sure your build passes before you can say you're done. right? And I've been using it for the launch. I used to use it for Launch Code TV. I'm still using it for CS50 connection. I can show you guys this one. But essentially, you just create a .travis.yaml file in your repository, and once it sees that, that gives it all the instructions it needs on how to run your tests. Usually, it's just saying what language it is, like language Java. It knows, hey, I just do this stuff to compile and run a Java project. So, and it'll work whether you have Gradle or Maven. It just sees if you have a POM or sees if you have a Gradle, and it'll work accordingly. So, yeah, any other questions?
Can you install an IDE on EC2?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, installing the IDE on EC2, that's kind of what we're doing at Boeing right now. Not to give out any proprietary information, but we're giving each one of our developers an EC2 instance, and essentially we can give them a fully functional developer station in like 4 minutes, using scripts and stuff. So yeah, you would just want to install like No Machine or X2Go. X2Go is a really great one for remote desktop. And then once your remote desktop in, it's just like installing it in the appliance itself. Yeah, yeah.
So at that point, though, you're limited to the performance is based on your network connection, right? Because the IDE is on a remote machine somewhere. It's not like the appliance where it's all running local.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you do have a slow internet connection in that case, you might see a little bit of choppiness. But if you use X2Go, X2Go is the remote desktop thing, and it is really, really thin. And we're like, on a decent internet connection, we're not even seeing any latency. It's like we're typing on our own computer. So it's really
Not like
incredible.
Keegan's phone.
Yeah, not like Keegan's phone. Not like Keegan's phone in the basement of the library. So, any other questions? Anyone?
Well, I guess just one question. I mean, because I expect that all the development would still be done probably locally. I mean, for me, just that's the way I would be. I mean, how then would you get everything up to, say, an EC2 instance? I mean, just FTP it all over, or you know,
Yeah,
like
just-
databases, you know, setting up MySQL or a MongoDB or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, I'd say just have everything on your local machine, and then you can just SCP it up real quick,
okay.
and it'll SCP up real quick.
Can you pull it down too? How do you pull it down then?
Oh, pull it down onto your EC2 or onto your.
Onto your desk, onto your.
Keegan wants me to tell you guys not to change it in production and let Travis CI just do all your deploys for you. If that kind of answers it. What were you thinking, Kim?
I would pull it down from production, take it off
Oh.
of production.
Yeah, no. It will pretty much be synced up with what's ever in GitHub,
Okay.
usually. So, yeah, anything else? Anything going once, going twice?
Do you know how long a tiny URL is good for if you don't want to buy a domain name? Is that an option for kind of short run projects, or is there something better?
Actually, one option is to use ngrok, which is just that little library that can throw your local host up onto a real domain name.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually specify, like, it can be like your app.ngrok.com.
Oh,
And as long as you've got it running on your local machine, that's how long it'll stay up on the internet. So that's one option. Keegan probably has a better way, but that's what I like to use.
So can you use ngrok with an EC2 instance as your quote-unquote local machine?
Yeah, you could, absolutely. But Keegan will show you guys, it's really easy to hook up DNS to an EC2, or really any server that you have. So, guys, Keegan.
Once you sign up for an account, you log in, and this is on my phone too, so it's not that slow, guys, I swear. You sign into Heroku, and then, once it goes to the dashboard, you see these are your apps. Let me zoom in a bit here. So you've got your apps, and you'll just create a new app, and then I created hello launch code. And this is actually running. For running just very, very small, it is completely free, which is the best kind of money. And then you also get access to all sorts of really neat things. Like they have all these add-ons, they call them, and it can run Mongo, it can run Redis, it can run RabbitMQ, it can run, it can do SSL termination, it can do all sorts of really neat stuff. And almost all of those also have a free tier. So if you're just messing around, just developing, and don't want to have to run all sorts of stuff locally, if you're developing on Windows or something, you can use this, and then getting your code up to here.
You don't have to install any of that stuff?
No, you don't have to install any of that stuff, Mike. Yeah. Yeah, so like, yeah, they've got Mongo, they've got Hadoop. You can do Hadoop off of here. Why would you do that? But you can. Postgres, anyways. So getting one of these up and running is really simple. Basically, when you create it, they tell you the Git repository that points at it. So I've got my Git repository here. So where is it? It's terrible plan. And it is hello Heroku. Boom, got it. And it'll also tell you the little URL where you can immediately find it. So it actually gives you one of those. Instead of ngRock, it's herokuapp.com. So I wrote this little thing, and when you go to it, it just says, hello, Heroku. And that's literally just, I mean, there's, what, 5 lines that actually do something here. So it is super easy to get up and running using Heroku. So that's why you should use it, because it's super easy, because who doesn't like easy? Did I say it was easy? I don't know.
Hey, is this easy?
Sometimes. So that's Heroku. And you can actually set it up, just like he said, you can set it up to integrate with Travis so that Travis runs your app, it does all the tests, because you should be writing tests to make sure your stuff works, that you don't have to do yourself, that it runs, that something runs. That's what Travis is really meant for. It's continuous integration. It does constant testing of all your commits. And then it runs the tests. If they pass, boom, it just pushes it right to Heroku, and you're good. So, with that in mind, let's say you do want something to point instead of hello-launchcode.herokuapp.com. Let's say you have a URL of your own. You buy that, you can either use their stuff or you can use Cloudflare. Cloudflare basically gives you protection against all sorts of really, really nasty attacks. It doesn't prevent all of them, but it prevents a lot of them, specifically DDoS attacks and some very simple sort of nasty things that people try to do to your app. So, again, very simple. You create an account, they'll say, hey, add your domain to it. Cloudflare. There we go. So you log in. I've got all these websites. So once you add the domain, you'll be presented with these DNS settings, right? So this is iksu.ve, because I bought that for some reason. And if you want, you know, you get your IP address, and you can just say, my server.iksu.ve points to whatever that IP address is. You add that in, and then you can almost immediately go to that address and talk to your server. And then it adds all sorts of protection in front of it. So that's really awesome.
How long does it take to propagate the the DNS for a search, like 24 hours?
Well, so you switch your DNS provider from GoDaddy or from whatever registrar you used to Cloudflare. They provide the DNS, and then their TTL is like 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So, in like 10:15, all of the DNS servers have cleared their caches and now know where your new stuff is at.
Does this work entirely just with web interfaces, or would it protect against attacks on other ports if you're
Right,
using
so-
another type of server?
Yes, that's kind of one caveat to this. You see this little active symbol here? As long as that's active, it'll actually go to their servers, and then their servers will talk to your servers. That's how they prevent all sorts of attacks and stuff. So obviously, or maybe not obviously, like SSH or whatever, you're going to be trying to SSH into their servers. And their servers are just going to nope, ignored, not interested. So you will need to have, I don't even know what this is. I think this is one of my random ones. So if I want to be able to access it directly, I can go to myserver.ixu.be, and because this isn't active over here, it's that around the cloud, I can access it just right directly to that IP address. Alright, so part 3, and I won't be able to show this off because my stuff has expired. But there's this company called Start SSL. If you guys want SSL certificates and you don't want to pay like $100+ a year, there's this website called Start SSL who will literally give you a free SSL certificate. It's trusted by all modern browsers out there, so it is a great value for the free. Actually, let me try this. So I authenticate, and of course. So to sign up, they'll actually have you do kind of like what Mike showed you. It'll generate a PIM that you need to save and then import into your browser. They do have steps that walks you through doing that. I don't know where those are. How to enroll, how to install. Those are probably the links you want. So you just use those, and it'll give you an SSL certificate. You can use that in Apache, you can use that in Nginx, whatever you're running to run your website. You can put it there, and then they can type in HTTPS. So simple, easy, free. I know I breezed through some of that pretty quickly. Please ask me questions now. Great, you guys are going to be using Heroku and SSL like tonight, right? Perfect. What's up, Mike? Yeah, please ask me questions.
How long does the SSL certificate last?
They validate the SSL certificates for a year, I believe. If you want it for longer, or if you want it for like everything.yourdomain.com, you have to pay money, but a basic SSL certificate is free. Oops, that's not what I meant to hit. Yeah, Mike, what are your questions?
That was so cool.
That wasn't a question.
Hey, Keegan,
Yes.
if we are writing our website in PHP, what service should we use?
I don't have any experience with any of them, so I would say do some research. Typically, the Google App Engine is a pretty good one, from what I've heard, and it lets you do a lot of the similar stuff, but it's through Google, and they have a free tier as well. I don't know what it entails, but yeah. And just so you guys can see, I have a little project in Travis CI that actually does some tests. Like whenever I do a commit, whenever I push or put a new tag up there, like right here, I tagged it 0.7.2. So it did a build on this commit here. So if I look at this build, you can see that it ran it in like 3 different versions of Node, and it also did all this stuff. It built my thing, it minified, and it ran 41 tests twice, once for the regular file, once for the minified. So you can write tests and it'll run the tests and make sure your app should be working.
Okay, so Keegan, if I've already got a domain name and I want to transfer it to Cloudflare,
Yeah.
is it pretty easy?
It's relatively easy, actually. So most of your hosts, let me go to mine, most of your registrars, I should say. So I use ns1.net. They're just good, cheap, with some neat things. So if I go to owner login, they'll have an interface like this, and you can just look at, so I've got my ixu.be, I can edit the DNS here. I go to that DNS, and then up at the very top of your Cloudflare, your main page for Cloudflare, maybe, somewhere. Oh, here we go. So it'll say your name servers. Laura.ns.cloudflare.com, rob.ns.cloudflare.com. And you just put those right in here, or wherever it is for your host, and they do actually have walkthroughs for like GoDaddy and 1&1, I think DreamHost, like all the big hosts, they have a walkthrough for it. And you just change that, and then you never have to look at this page again. You do it all through Cloudflare. Yeah. More things.
What's the advantage to using Cloudflare over just the DNS from your registrar or hosting provider?
Right. So I used to work for a hosting provider, and let me tell you, most of them are horrible. Just be warned. But the problem with them is typically the DNS you get from them will be like in one data center. So if that data center goes down, your whole website's down. And sometimes those data centers are not very nice. So if that happens, then your site's offline. Then the other benefit is that Cloudflare provides protection in front of your site and a CDN. So they will actually like cache your site for, I forget how long, but a period of time, so that anyone hitting like a static sort of page will get a cached version. It won't really hit your server, and it'll get to them much faster, as well as all sorts of protection against some really nasty attacks. Anything else? Yeah.
So Cloudflare is free, right?
Yes.
What do they get out of it? Like, why is it
So-
free?
Right. What do they get out of it? So it's free to a point. If you want to do SSL and use Cloudflare, you have to pay Cloudflare $20 a month. If you want all sorts of benefits, they have plans that are like $20 a month, $100 a month, and like more for some, very high traffic websites, very in-demand things that are making lots of money. And they provide all these protections. They provide some really, really neat things. Like, they provide this thing called Railgun. That, like, you run it on your server, and, like, if things haven't changed, it will literally transfer, like, 1 byte back and forth for that request. And it's crazy the way some of these things work. And that's what you get from the higher tiers. And there are enough of those that it pays for the free people, Because the biggest problem with most web services is getting exposure, getting people to use it. It's not making that profit once you have the users. Anything else? Yes.
So what's the danger about using a place like GoDaddy? You
There's
say, when you say that, you know, it's one data center and it's not very nice and it's crappy, what does that mean? They've got ogres there, or
right. So
they don't wash the floors
Uh,
regularly?
I can tell you about floors.
Well, which one are you talking about?
I'm just saying,
Where
are
did you
you
work?
saying that if they have a power failure and they go down, you're screwed completely?
Until they happen to come back up, whenever that may be. Yeah.
And there's no backup at another site?
Typically, no. And especially if you're paying them like $5 a month, why would they care about you? You know, if they have to give up $5 a month every year or whatever, however often they have an outage, times however many customers, that's nothing because they have thousands and thousands and thousands of customers.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
As opposed to Cloudflare where you are a free customer?
Well, the thing with Cloudflare is Cloudflare has, 21 data centers around the world with geo-balanced BGP, meaning like if one of their data centers goes down, web traffic won't even try to go to it. It'll know that it's down and route around it.
And how do you know that?
Because if you happen to have access to computers in different locations across the world, you can actually trace routes to that IP address and see that it is going different routes in different places. Which I've got access to a computer in Singapore, Amsterdam, and a couple in the US. So, yeah. I'm a little tired if you can't tell. More questions?
Is there any way for us to check, for us without being computer coder experts yet, to check on GoDaddy where our actual data is being hosted?
Yeah, I mean, just, you wouldn't be able to tell if they're like BGP balanced or anything, but like from your own computer, you can open up your command prompt, and there's this little command called traceRT. This is in Windows. The full command, if you're in like Linux or Mac, is traceroute. It traces what route your traffic takes. So if I want to trace route to Google's DNS, I say traceRT 8.8.8.8, and we can see that it'll try to figure out what everything is. So it hits 192.168.1.1, which is my phone. It hits Sprint's network. It hits more of Sprint's network. It hits yet more of Sprint's network. Dear Lord, Sprint is horrible. Everybody's the same. It's cell carriers. So now we're on Sprint Link. So this is Sprint's backbone here. This 144.223 address.
It's hard to read, sorry.
Yeah, I can maybe edit properties. Font. That is as good as Windows gets. So this is going through Sprint's network. It's figuring out what route your traffic is taking to get to Google's DNS. And some of these names will sometimes resolve to different things.
Yes.
So you can get an idea of where in the world some of it is. Like you see SL, CRSL, KC, that's probably somewhere in Kansas City. Like you'll see, like if you're on Charter, you trace route somewhere, it'll hit Olivet first, and then it'll hit Chicago, and then it'll hit Google, basically. So then, yeah, and then you see it hit Google's public DNS. Or you could actually trace route just to google.com. I won't walk you through this, but you get the idea. It'll show you what route your traffic's taking, and that's how you can get an idea of where it is. And if you have access to different computers that are different internet connections, hopefully different places in the world, If it all ends up at the same place, that's one place, and if something happens to that one place, you're kind of out of luck.
Got it.
When setting up your DNS, do you have to worry about things in this day and age like A names and C name and stuff like that?
All right, yeah. So Cloudflare, like you can see here, this is an A, this is a C name. So you still have to worry about that to some degree, but typically all you need to worry about is A, C name, and like an MX. Where your A name points to an IP address, right? Your C name points to a different name, and then your MX says what server to send mail to. And that's typically all you'll have to worry about. Like, I can show you, I think I have on a lot of stuff. This one does. And slow internet is slow. Awesome. There we go, yeah. So you can see here, like I've got A names, C names, and MX. That's typically all you'll need to worry about. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
Do you think it's worth switching away from Windows for stuff like Express and jQuery and Node and all that?
Yeah.
What Linux build would you use?
What distro?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. For getting started, really nothing beats Ubuntu or one of the variants thereof. You could maybe use Debian, which is what Ubuntu is based on. A lot of people are really happy with Arch. And then in the more enterprisey world, there's like CentOS and Fedora and well, Red Hat, but that costs money. Over there.
If for people who are looking to research Linux, there's a website called DistroWatch.
Yes,
which
yes.
is basically it's kind of a leaderboard of different Linux distributions that has lots of information about. Yeah, there you go. How to so there's kind of a news column in the thing, but if you scroll down and look to look to the right. You see there's a leaderboard for distributions. Mint is at the top, then Ubuntu, Debian, Mageia, or however you pronounce that one, it's French or something. And then Fedora, OpenSUSE, Elementary. Elementary is really pretty. If you want to try that one out, it kind of tries to emulate Mac OS X.
Isn't it a Fedora base?
It's Ubuntu based.
Oh,
Basically,
okay.
this group of Canadians decided that they were going to make a distribution that looks pretty. Mint at the top, that one I would suggest because it comes with like proprietary things on it like Flash and MP3s and like all those codecs that comes with it automatically. You don't have to mess around with it. That's why it's kind of at the top. I've never used OpenSUSE or Mageia, but I've used plenty of those other ones. And yeah, but look at this leaderboard. If you click on any of them, it'll tell you like what packages what versions of different packages it uses, how to install it, whether or not it has a live medium, all sorts of information. So this is a really good resource for researching Linux distros.
Awesome, thank you.